We are live. So last stream was on Steel Atlas. Steel Atlas's partner is Cameron Porter, and I just found that Cameron Porter follows Samo, and Samo is the founder of Bismarck Analysis, and Bismarck seems to be doing interesting thing. We help companies, governments, philanthropists, and investors in their vital role of advancing civilization since 2017, founded by Samo. All right, so let's look at this. Let's look. It looks pretty cool. They're doing basically research on a bunch of the most interesting technologies we have. 3 years ago, we launched Bismarck Brief. Since then, our analysts have written nearly 1 million words on emerging technologies, global industry, and the world's most influential individuals. Here are 7 most important things we learned about how the world works in 24. Okay, so we got robotics, we got defense tech, defense tech. Oh, politics. This is energy, architecture. Is this biology? This is manufacturing. Is this manufacturing? This seems like manufacturing. This is aeroplane industry. And this is, again, defense, but more like anti-terrorism. Okay, let's see. Most large companies are non-mission-driven organizations designed and led to meet a technological or logistical goal and capture profit from the value they create. Rather, they are designed, managed, and treated as financial products optimized to meet financial metrics. Most large companies are non-mission-driven organizations designed and led to meet a technological or logistical goal and capture profit from the value they create. Rather, they are designed, managed, and treated as financial products optimized to meet financial metrics. That's the balance that we have to find, where you are mission driven, but then you also have to survive, so you have to meet the financial product. So let's see what they have more over here. Okay, new and nimble companies led by live players tend to have clear and charismatic goals. Whether one thinks of Amazon's everything store, OpenAI's aim to create artificial general intelligence, or SpaceX's mission to settle on Mars. But what is the rest of the economy doing? In defense contracting, pharmaceuticals, and many more industries, the average company does not target tangible, useful goals in the real world, but intangible financial metrics or even social goals. Most companies are not even trying to be productive as commonly understood. Defense contractor Raytheon, for example, is now a new corporation with the explicit goal of achieving financial stability through bundling unrelated businesses into a single corporate entity. Not building better weapons or radars. Read the brief here. Raytheon is now under the portfolio theory of the firm. Is now run under the portfolio theory of the firm. In contrast, the semiconductor manufacturer Broadcom targets growth and profitability, but not through inventing and releasing transformative products, but rather savvy acquisitions and cost cutting. Read the brief here. Broadcom is a portfolio of valuable semiconductor businesses. The problem with such portfolio companies is that even if financially successful, they are generally incapable of concentrating attention and resources to solving difficult technological or logistical problems that would increase wealth and drive forward progress. So they're basically talking about, let's say, the incumbents. The incumbents, once you become an incumbent, your goal is no more to drive technological progress, but your goal is now more and more towards financial metrics, just maintaining the status quo, let's say. Industries dominated by such firms become stagnant as executives seamlessly jump from one supposed competitor to another interchangeably. Both executives and employees stop seeing the company as a unit of competition, but rather advocate for the needs of the industry. Both executives and employees stop seeing the company as a unit of competition, but rather advocate for the needs of the industry. Importantly, these firms are different from conglomerates, although they look similar. Conglomerates like Hyundai intentionally diversify to achieve strategic capabilities and optionality, not to optimize financial metrics. Hyundai's successor kingdoms. Conglomerates intentionally diversify to achieve strategic capabilities and optionality, not to optimize financial metrics. Note, if you're enjoying this thread so far, make sure to share liberally. Links are deboosted by the current algorithm, and this thread is unapolo- unapologetically laden with links. Number two, technical succession failure kills companies. Technical succession failure kills companies. From Intel to Boeing to Sony, the story of once great technologically advanced companies dying begins with the ascendance of a CEO who is an outsider to the company's technical tradition of knowledge. Hmm. So they're talking about how when you get an outside CEO, that's the time when the company starts dying because this person wasn't. That's interesting. Like, this is the similar case with Starbucks. It'll be interesting to see if this applies to Starbucks because Starbucks' new CEO spent all his time on Chipotle, making Chipotle a great brand, just making sure Chipotle works. And how does that? Hmm. There's definitely a lot of benefit if you started as a small, just a barista in Starbucks to now leading the company as a CEO. You could be thinking fully like a Starbucks. You have so much context. You have so much context. From Intel to Boeing to Sony, the story of once great technologically advanced companies dying begins with the ascendance of a CEO who is an outsider to the company's technical tradition of knowledge. Does this apply only to technical companies and not to companies like Starbucks? Interesting. Intel's first technical outside outsider CEO decided to stop experimenting with new chips, like for the iPhone. Hmm. Boeing's decided to stop designing more ambitious planes but re-release tweaked old ones to save money. Sony's decided to stop betting on new consumer electronic products. Norio Oga was the last live player to lead Sony. He was explicitly ordered by Akio Morita to select an engineer as his successor, but did not. At the time, both Morita and Oga had fallen ill, and Oga lacked time to properly mentor a successor. Oga selected a marketing specialist, Nobuyuki Ide, in a move that was widely regarded in the company as a terrible decision. Oga selected Ide only because he had rejected everyone else and was later known to frequently say that choosing Ide was a mistake. Ken Kutaragi, an exceptionally talented engineer who led the development of the PlayStation with the sole support of Oga, was the candidate most expected to lead the company, but was not chosen over his perceived disagreeability. Kutaragi departed Sony in 2007. Oh wow. This is this is a very interesting story. Can we grok and see? Tell me about Ken Kutaragi's career. Father of the PlayStation, had a remarkable career centered around innovation in the gaming electronics industries, primarily through his work at Sony. 1950, graduated from the electrocommunication with a degree in electrical engineering. 75, he joined Sony. Wow, he had so much experience working projects involving digital technology, including liquid crystal displays and digital signal processing. His early tenure at Sony was marked by a reputation for being a bit of a maverick, brilliant but sometimes at odds with the company's conservative culture. Pivotal turn in the late 80s when he began exploring the potential of video games. His interest stemmed partly from watching his daughter play games on Nintendo's Famicom, the Japanese version of the NES. At the time, Sony had no significant presence in gaming, but Kutaragi saw an opportunity. Without explicit approval from Sony's leadership, he secretly collaborated with Nintendo to develop a sound chip. the SPC 700 for their upcoming Super Famicom. This move was risky. Executives were furious when they found out, as they viewed gaming as beneath the company's prestige. His persistence paid off when the project showcased his technical prowess. The real breakthrough came when Nintendo backed out of a planned partnership with Sony to create CD-ROM add-on for the Super Famicom, opting instead to work with Philips. Feeling betrayed, Sony's leadership finally gave Kutaragi the green light to develop a standalone gaming console to compete directly with Nintendo. This led to the birth of PlayStation, launched in Japan on December 3, 1994. The PlayStation was a revolutionary system, leveraging CD-ROM technology to offer superior graphics, sound, and storage compared to cartridge-based competitors. Kutaragi's vision emphasized 3D graphics and a developer-friendly ecosystem, which attracted a wide range of game creators and propelled the console to global success, selling over 100 million units. Kutaragi didn't stop there. This is crazy. Today, the only product that Sony is known for is PlayStation. So Kutaragi played such a massive role. He spearheaded the development of the PlayStation 2, released in 2000, which became the best-selling console of all time. 155 million units sold. PS2, yeah, that makes sense. Doubled as a DVD player, broadening its appeal and cementing Sony's dominance in the gaming market. He also oversaw PlayStation 3, launched in 2006, though its high cost and complex architecture, featuring the ambitious cell processor which he championed, met with mixed success initially. He held various leadership roles at Sony, including president and CEO of Sony Computer Entertainment, the division he founded to manage PlayStation. His tenure wasn't without challenges. His blunt style and ambitious projects sometimes clashed with Sony's broader corporate strategy. By 2007, after the PS3's rocky start, he stepped down from his executive role at SCE, though he remained an honorary chairman and technical advisor until fully retiring from Sony in 2011. So how old was he? 61. Post Sony, Kutaragi founded Cyber AI Entertainment, focusing on robotics, AI, and new forms of interactive entertainment. He's also taken on advisory roles and continues to explore cutting-edge technology, maintaining his reputation as a visionary. His career is a testament to his ability to blend technical genius with bold risk-taking, fundamentally shaping the gaming industry and turning Sony into a gaming powerhouse. His legacy lives on in every PlayStation console sold. What is he doing today? Or actually, the better question would be, what is he working on today? Exact activities on to this date. Recent endeavors. We can piece together what he's likely involved in. Now 74, serves as the president and CEO of Cyber AI Entertainment company he founded after leaving Sony in 2011. His work that focuses on robotics, AI, and innovative interactive entertainment, reflecting his long-standing passion for pushing technological boundaries. In recent years, he's been vocal about his vision for technology's future, including a shift from traditional gaming to broader applications like real-time computing and AI-driven systems. The gaming industry's evolution toward these areas, suggesting he remains actively engaged in thought leadership and possibly rare projects at Cyber AI. He met with Tokyo-based videographer Julian Domansky, who reported Kutaragi still has a Nintendo PlayStation prototype in his possession, casually stored in a cupboard. This encounter, where he also signed a PS1, shows he's still connected to his gaming legacy and open to occasional fan or professional interactions. Likely spending his time in Tokyo, where he's based, either working on AI, robotics initiatives, reflecting on industry trends, or perhaps enjoying a quieter moment tied to his personal interest, tinkering with the tech, keeping tabs on his storied past without a daily schedule. Very interesting. Oh wow, this was just toy, video game, computer entertainment. Wow. The gaming industry is poised for its next evolution from computer entertainment to real-time computing, including AI. PCWS supercomputer, computer entertainment, video game, real-time computing, fantasy game system, communication, AI assistant, open world. Very interesting. This was a very interesting tangent. I also want to search perplexity just for the pictures because that's the problem with Grok. Grok doesn't show pictures. All right. On PS3 price, we want consumers to think to themselves, I will work more hours to buy one. We want people to feel that they want it, irrespective of anything else. Addressing the PS3's high launch price, emphasizing its perceived value over affordability. We want consumers to think to themselves, I will work more hours to buy one. That's interesting. You want them to be more productive so they make more money so that at the end they can buy a gaming console and play video games. On the PS3's purpose, the PS3 is not a game machine. We have never once called it a game machine. With the PS3, our intentions have been to create a machine with supercomputer calculation capabilities for home entertainment. This makes sense. Like most, like Nvidia is this massive today because they went after building chips for the gaming industry where the gamers wanted the most advanced. They are playing games only only with hmm, it's a good feedback cycle where people want better and better games that started with a basic, what do we call it, DX ball? I forgot what's DX ball called in normal. What's the standard name for DX ball or DX ball game? We went from DX ball to playing something like GTA Vice City, like real world games, and we now want games to look more and feel just like the real world. And even like these racing cars, like F1 racing, gaming simulated environments, they look so much like the real world. So we went from DX ball to that, and that could only happen when when we have tools like Nvidia that are really working on making sure that they become a supercomputer they have supercomputer calculation capabilities. So it's a really interesting feedback cycle where gamers are pushing for more and more real world like simulated environments, and Nvidia and companies like Nvidia have to then also keep building that infrastructure that is pretty much like a with supercomputer calculation capabilities. 2006 statement showcasing his ambition to position the PS3 as more than just a gaming console, highlighting its cell processor. And today, when we had AI, all we had to do is switch from gaming to AI because we had already, like, gaming had helped us build supercomputer supercomputer calculation capabilities. And now we had to just direct our focus from gaming to AI. On competition with Microsoft shoots for the moon, Sony shoots for the sun. A poetic jab from the mid 2000s, underscoring Sony's loftier goals in the console wars. On the PS3's impact, Xbox versus PS3. On the PS3's impact, the PS3 will instill discipline in our children and adults alike. Everyone will know discipline. Another 2006 gem tied to the PS3's complex architecture and its belief in its transformative power, though it's often quoted for its quirky phrasing. The PS3 will instill discipline in our children and adults alike. Everyone will know discipline. On the PS2's potential, it's so interesting. Like, this is so interesting. Like, all the things that we view as a distraction, they are somebody's life life's work. Like, PlayStation is Ken Kutaragi's life's work. He's 74 today, and if you have like a 10-minute conversation, you are definitely gonna talk about PlayStation. He's definitely gonna reflect back on his entire experience with PlayStation. That was the biggest thing that he worked on. He spent years and years on that, thinking about it every single day, improving that product every single day. But today, we also talk about how guys just game and they don't go out and talk and have real conversations and look into the eye, stuff like that. So interesting, so interesting. The things you view as distraction are somebody's life's work, which makes it very interesting. Okay, now even perplexity doesn't give images. This is crazy. Interesting, interesting. On PlayStation 2's potential, you can communicate to a new cyber city. This will be the ideal home server. Did you see the movie The Matrix? Same interface, same concept. Starting from next year, you can jack into The Matrix. On Sony's industry rule, the name of the game is not market share, it's how fast we can grow the industry. A strategic perspective from his Sony tenure, focusing on expansion over dominance. Hmm. How fast we can grow the industry. On the PSP's design, I believe we made PlayStation P, PSP, PSP. I believe we made the most beautiful thing in the world. Nobody would criticize a renowned architect's blueprint that the position of a gate is wrong. It's the same as that. Defending PSP square button placement 2005, this quote shows his confidence and tendency to liken his work to high art. On Microsoft's capability, Microsoft is still not a black belt. Hmm. What happened to PlayStation product and revenue after let's see what happened to PlayStation as a product and revenue after Kutaragi left. Turning point for the PlayStation brand as it transitioned from his visionary leadership to a more operational focus under Kazuo Hirai. Here's what happened. PS3 was struggling. Launched at its cheap $599 for the 60GB model and $499 for 20GB, he was criticized for its high-priced, complex cell processor architecture and a rocky stock of limited exclusive titles. Xbox 360, released a year earlier with Nintendo's Wii, with its innovative motion controls, had already gained significant market traction. The PS3's early years were marked by production challenges and a perception that Sony had over-engineered the console, a legacy of Kutaragi's ambitious supercomputer on a chip vision. However, under Hirai's leadership, Sony pivoted. The PS3 saw iterative improvements, slimmer models, price cuts, dropping to $299 by 2009, and a stronger focus on gaming content. Exclusive titles like Uncharted, The Last of Us, and God of War 3 bolstered its reputation, while the inclusion of Blu-ray, which won the format war against HD DVD, turned the PS3 into a valuable home entertainment hub. By the end of its life cycle in 2017, the PS3 had sold over 87 million units, not matching the PS2's 155, but a respectable recovery from its shaky start. Okay? The PlayStation 4, launched in November 2013, was a direct response to the PS3's lessons, led by Mark Cerny and a team no longer under Kutaragi's influence. The PS4 ditched the cell processor for a more developer-friendly x86 architecture, launched at a competitive $399, and prioritized gaming over multimedia gimmicks. It dominated the 8th generation, outselling the Xbox One nearly 2:1, with over 117 million units sold by the end of its main cycle. The PS4's success was driven by a robust library of exclusives. Bloodborne, Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man, and a streamlined online ecosystem via PlayStation Plus. The PS5, released in November 2020, built on its momentum and introduced. Oh, so PS4 came out in 2013 and PS5 came out in 2020, 7 years later. Wow. Introduced cutting edge features like the DualSense controller and ultra fast SSD, maintaining Sony's focus on gaming innovation while avoiding the overreach of the PS3 era. By early 2025, PS5 had sold over 61 million units despite initial supply constraints and continued to lead the ninth generation against Microsoft's Xbox Series XIS or XS. His departure coincided with a low point. In fiscal year 2006, gaming division posted an operating loss of 1.97 billion USD. Launch cost and price cuts. 2007, narrow losses 1.06 billion, but profitability remained elusive as Sony absorbed the PS3's high production cost. Recovery began 2008. Profitability 430 million USD. 2010, operating income reached 760 million, reflecting cost efficiencies and a stronger game lineup. Long tail supported by a growing install base and digital sales, helping sustain revenue through the early 2010s. The PS4 era marked a revenue explosion. 2013, 10.5 billion USD. Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. So explosion makes sense. With operating income 265. And then 2016, 14.6. Operating income 1.28 billion, fueled by PS4 hardware sales, software, PlayStation Plus subscriptions. Became Sony's largest revenue driver. Right after that, PlayStation was the only thing for Sony. FY23, okay, reached 28.2 billion USD just selling PlayStation. Wow. G&NS. What is G&NS? Gaming and what? Okay. Game and network services. Okay. Wow. Operating income 1.92. This growth reflected the PS5 success, high software sales, held diverse to and a thriving digital ecosystem despite no major first party releases. Okay, very cool. Let's go back. The choice to promote Ide instead of Kotaragi marks the succession failure of Sony's founding inner circle. Ide would later state his intention to transform Sony into a modernized corporation independent from past glory and the founder's shadow, and that could be managed by ordinary people like himself. Ide was unable to effectively manage Sony, suffering from a lack of legitimacy within the company and an inability to personally contribute to the innovation or design of new products. That is so interesting. If you are just the marketing guy and you don't know how the product is actually built, and now you are the CEO, you don't even know how to get involved in the innovation and design of new products. Wow. It displayed a tendency to reorganize the entire company's management structure in an attempt to solve its problems, generating confusion around the responsibility of roles within the company. Close lieutenants of the previous founder CEOs were dismissed. These reorganizations derive from the desire to mirror the structure of Western businesses and their management style, which Ide believed could mitigate his lack of personal charisma. But Intel's bigger problem is that it failed to take advantage of, let alone lead, the multiple fundamental transformations of the computing industry during the 21st century, which are now obsoleting Intel's technology. For example, in the 2000s, Intel turned down an offer from Steve Jobs to manufacture processors for then brand new iPhone because Intel's then CEO Paul believed Apple would not sell enough iPhones to justify the initial development cost. The initial iPhone processors were designed and manufactured instead by Samsung, eventually costing Intel untold billions in lost revenue. Intel failed to later catch up in the smartphone revolution, in part because of its commitment to the x86 instruction set architecture, which was strictly technically inferior to rival ARM architecture on mobile devices, whereas x86 is a complex instruction set computer where single instructions can execute multiple steps in a row. ARM is a reduced instruction set computer where instructions are simplified in order to run faster and more power efficiently, thus preserving operating time on a battery powered device like a smartphone. ARM 9, the latest version, has 354 base instructions. In contrast, x86 has over 1500. at the cost of greatly increasing the complexity of designing new x86 compatible CPUs. All of these once seemingly untouchable companies have since been grossly outcompeted and are struggling to remain relevant. But for years, actually, I want to check out the Sony website and see what shows up. Alright, we are here. And it seems like, is this gaming or content? Demon Slayer. Animation. Okay, right. So Sony also has Sony Entertainment in the movies. And then Sony has Sony Music. Jenny. Right. Then they have gaming. Monster Hunter. Then they got music. Okay. Movies and TV. Journeys and over. So Sony went from tech to content. Animation, music, gaming. Animation, music, gaming. Movies. Wow. Sony Semiconductor Manufacturing Corporation executive changes. Sony develops next generation display system with proprietary signal processing technology for individual RGB control of high density LED backlights. NYU and Sony's personal entertainment business launch the Sony Audio Institute. Sony honored as one of 2025 world's most ethical companies for the 7th time. Lisa. Oh, we're already seeing everybody from Blackpink now. Here's Lisa. At the top, we saw Jenny. Someone came out with the video with Dua Lipa. Okay. Goat from producer Stephen Curry and the studio that brought you Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This kid's got game. Goat. Exclusive in movie theaters. So it's perfect. You are a goat. And you are a goat. Creator. Twisted Meal. Wow. The Wheel of Time Season 3 New Business. Aibo Kinako edition is officially available and looking for happy homes everywhere. They got baby bots. Baby bots. Electronics. This reminds me of a Black Mirror episode. Was it Black Mirror episode? I think so, yeah. Whoa. Almost $3,000. What? Kinako. Strawberry milk. Black sesame. White. Okay. Benefits of buying directly from Sony: free shipping, 0% APR, Aibo companion robot. Develops its own unique evolving personality through everyday interactions, lifelike expressions, and a dynamic array of natural movements. Aibo is sold as a final sale, no return. Wide range of sensors, cameras, and actuators bring Aibo to life. My Aibo app, AI powered by Aibo AI Cloud Plan. Included ping ball, charging station, charging stand, mat. 3-year AI cloud service. Over time, Aibo forms an emotional bond with members of the household. Pink ball, meet Aibo. All the benefits of what life with Aibo is like. Aibo community, side view, front view. Wow, okay. What is this? Cobra Kai, okay. Leveling season, Jade. About Sony Group. Affiliated companies. Whoa, okay. What do we have? Sony Corporation, marketing, semiconductor solutions, global manufacturing and operations, electronics, Asia, Malaysia, Europe, Olympus, medical solutions, global education, interactive entertainment, PlayStation.com, AU PlayStation, Sony Network Communication, Sony Pictures Entertainment, Sony Music Entertainment Japan, Sony Music Entertainment US, Sony Music Publishing, Sony Financial Group, Life Insurance, Sony Assurance, Sony Bank, Sony Corporation of America, Sony AI. Very interesting. Okay, so these are all the things we got. Assassin's Creed, baseball, Death Standing 2 on the beach, Midnight Murder Club, Forza. Let's go. I think I played this game. This is really fun. Especially with the entire setup. Apple Music, God of War 20th anniversary, 2K25, Roman Reigns. Who else do I know here? I don't watch this thing. I don't know anyone. Discover all PS5 consoles and accessories. This is the console. Okay. PS5 Pro, DualSense controller, Elite headset. Okay, we got the buds, earbuds. Okay, looks cool. We got, okay, better controllers. We got more controllers. Whoa, what is that? We got console covers. Yeah, these colors are kind of ugly, but okay. We got the media remote. We got the HD camera. Do I know any of these games? Space Marine, Horizon, Civilization, Monster Hunter, Pirate, Yakuza in Hawaii. This March on PlayStation. Okay, this is very interesting. Their website is a little bit very basic, no personality. But anyways, okay. But for years, only the most careful and technically literate observers could have seen they were sawing off the branch they sat on. Only the most careful and technically literate observers could have seen they were sawing off the branch they sat on. The decisions of Boeing's non-technical CEO initially led to years of high profits and optimism. Then one day those same decisions caused planes to malfunction and crash. Now Boeing has been unprofitable for years. The decay of Boeing. Boeing will face competition not only from its traditional rival Airbus but also SpaceX and likely a Chinese competitor in the medium-term future. Intel is being squeezed by ARM and Nvidia. Sony was displaced by Apple long ago. Sony Ericsson, wow. Though Apple II is now ripe for displacement. The C990 in China's answer to A320. But what is it like on board? Is this a video? No. These examples are perhaps only symptoms of a wider shortage or decline in managerial competence. Huge swaths of big business and bureaucracies rely on outside consultants like McKinsey to make even basic decisions for them. Read the brief here. Big business and bureaucracies outsource their work to McKinsey. Wealth redistribution can work as long as you keep funding it. Wealth redistribution can work as long as you keep funding it. Redistributive economies do not necessarily collapse. They can last for a long time and even be strengthened. Redistribution is a political calculus, with the redistributor of wealth patronizing a network of distributees to keep power. The balancing act redistributors face is ensuring the political promises of redistribution do not exceed the actual resources available. Saudi Arabia and Venezuela look very different, but they are actually both redistributive petrostates of about 30 million people. Why Saudi Arabia is rich and Venezuela poor is mainly because Venezuela's national oil company is dysfunctional, but Saudi Aramco isn't. Hmm, very interesting. Saudi Arabia and Venezuela look very different, but they are actually both redistributive petrostates of about 30 million people. Why Saudi Arabia is rich and Venezuela poor is because Venezuela's national oil company is dysfunctional, but Saudi Aramco isn't. Two-thirds of native Saudis work for the government. The proli, proli, profligacy. Whoa, 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 whoa. We gotta look into this. What is profligacy? Typo. Yes. Profligacy refers to a reckless extravagance or wastefulness, often in the context of spending money, resources, or time. It's about being excessively lavish or indulgent without regard for consequences, sometimes to the point of irresponsibility. The term comes from the Latin profligatus, meaning worthless or abandoned, and carries a negative connotation. Things squandering wealth on frivolous things or living beyond one's means. His profligacy with the company budget led to massive debts. Hmm, interesting. New one. Okay, we'll just start a new one. Grog gets confused all the time. Two-thirds of native Saudis work for the government. The profligacy of the Saudi economy is underwritten by oil exports by Saudi Aramco, which has a special arrangement for autonomy in exchange for tribute to the government. Hmm. Saudi Aramco is the house of Saudi's oil throne. It's beautiful, beautiful blue water. Wow. Two-thirds of native Saudis work for the government. The profligacy of the Saudi economy is underwritten by oil exports by Saudi Aramco, which is a special arrangement for autonomy in exchange for tribute to the government. Venezuela used to have a similar arrangement, but political conflict destroyed the functionality of its equivalent to Saudi Aramco. Venezuela actually has more oil than Saudi Arabia but fails to extract and sell it anymore. Hmm. Venezuelan oil stopped flowing due to the loss of functional institution. A functional institution. Had a few different decisions been made, a few events gone differently, an alternate Venezuela today might be hailed as a success of socialist economies. This would be false, but it was then not redistribution that destroyed Venezuela so much as conflict and incompetence. The more common failure mode of redistribution is not sudden dramatic economic collapse like Venezuela, but slow grinding stagnation as a too small pie is divided amongst too many eaters, like how Argentina tried to fund social democracy with low value agricultural products. In Nigeria, however, the pie of oil exports is just far too small to allow redistribution across a population of hundreds of millions. Instead, you get a weak centralized petrostate ruling over a large impoverished country. Redistributive economies that understand their own nature can even take actions to create more value in order to subsequently redistribute it, becoming stronger and richer in the process. This type of economy should be familiar. It is a Western liberal democracy. Number four, subsidies can be either extremely effective or wasteful failures depending on whether they follow the logic of industry or try to defeat it for ideological reasons. Wind power is a prototypical example of ineffective subsidy. Wind cannot power manufacturing. It is basically incompatible with the needs of industry and development in almost every way, from intermittency to diseconomies of scale. Mm, diseconomies of scale. That's very interesting because you could be putting more and more of these windmills out there, but one new windmill only doesn't add. Every new windmill doesn't, it only, the benefit is incremental always, the benefit is never exponential. Diseconomies of scale, yet governments fund it anyway. Such poor subsidies result in major negative distortions to markets, infrastructure, and perceptions. In order to craft effective subsidies, government officials must have personal knowledge of the technical aspects of a field and also social contact with the practitioners. Such conditions can be met even in Silicon Valley. Palantir is by far the most successful investment of InQtel, the CIA's venture capital arm, which invested in the company early on even when established investors rejected it. Palantir's quest to create clairvoyant institutions. What is clairvoyant? Who claims to have the ability to perceive things beyond the normal range of human senses, such as seeing into the future, perceiving distant events, or gaining information about objects or people without direct evidence. The term comes from the French words clair and voyant, clairvoyant, clairvoyant, essentially meaning clear vision. Clairvoyance is often associated with psychic abilities, extrasensory perceptions, or supernatural phenomena, and it's a concept frequently explored in spiritualism, mysticism, and popular culture. China is the world's largest manufacturing power today. It rapidly built this industrial base through the use of generous subsidies, and it continues to apply the same strategy to cutting edge domains like advanced semiconductors. The United States is the world's preeminent superpower. This is thanks to the vast US military economy and cultural production. But it is also because the US just directly loans or gives away huge amounts of money to most other governments on the planet. Just directly loans or gives away huge amounts of money to most other governments on the planet. International financial institutions like the World Bank and IMF are headquartered in Washington, funded by the US government and its allies, and the US has a de facto veto on their actions. These institutions are obscure at home but play huge contentious roles abroad. The IMF lends money to governments facing financial crisis. In theory, this should be followed by fiscal reforms. In practice, some large countries like Argentina, Egypt, Ukraine, and Pakistan just keep getting more loans. The World Bank, meanwhile, is supposed to profitably fund economic development around the world. Instead, it is effectively a way to subsidize the bureaucracies of third world governments or even just give out charitable aid. The World Bank is not driving economic growth. The IMF has 150 billion in loans outstanding and a capacity of nearly 1 trillion. The World Bank committed 73 billion in loans and grants in 2023. Add in other agencies like USAID, which has a 60 billion budget. Who owes the World Bank money? Americas, Brazil, Mexico, Colombia, Peru, Asia, India, Indonesia, Bangladesh, Pakistan, China. Who owes the IMF money? Who owes the World Bank money? IMF. Interesting. The US government effectively directs hundreds of billions of dollars to a long list of foreign governments across the world every year with little to no strings attached. The real string, of course, is alignment with and deference to US priorities abroad. This financial power is one of the key planks of US hegemony. Only China perhaps might be able to match it, though it so far does not. For poor and even middle income countries, the possibility of receiving billions of dollars in cold hard cash is a very powerful incentive. Number six, when it comes to effecting political change, how you get there matters a lot less than what you do once you are there, whether you have a life player skilled at reforming institutions. This is why populist victory at the polls so often fails to cause meaningful change. From Brazil to UK, recent years are littered with examples of high energy populist victories that ultimately resulted in little or no change to the political and economic fundamentals of those societies. The missing ingredient was institutional reform by live players. Hmm. Many of the world's most consequential recent political players did not rise to power on the back of populist waves at all. In Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman rose to power as a monarchical heir. In Russia, Putin rose through political appointments. In El Salvador, Nayib Bukele did not attract international attention until after his election to the presidency and subsequent reforms. His early political career was more conventional, rising as mayor and working with established political parties, including on the left. In Hungary, 15 years of uninterrupted and institutionalized rule by conservative nationalist populists has surprisingly not yet meaningfully altered the country's trajectory in economic, demographic, and international affairs. Hmm. Populist victory at the polls, even repeated and decisive victories, can only ever be an initial step toward reform unless populist energy is effectively harnessed by a skilled live player in politics with a new vision for the institutional landscape. It will dissipate. One of the most underrated paths to political power is intellectual work. The common conception of political power is that it grows out of popularity, money, or the barrel of a gun. But one of the most underrated paths to political power is intellectual work. Iran's, I'm trying to understand this statement, what does that mean? But one of the most underrated paths to political power is intellectual work. Underrated path to political power is intellectual work. Iran, surprisingly, robust theocratic government is an outgrowth of Iran's class of Shia Muslim religious clerics. The 79 revolution was led by Ayatollah Khomeini, then already an elderly man, a respected scholar and cleric. Khomeini led a revolution and war at an age most would be entering retirement after decades of a relatively quiet career as an Islamic cleric. A notable counterexample of the idea revolutions are led A notable counterexample of the idea revolutions are led by the young. The career of Elizabeth Warren shows that this is not a quirk of Iran. Warren also entered politics with a bang at an age most would be considering retirement after decades as a relatively niche law professor. Warren has been described as a Democratic Party luminary with an unusually strong network of allies and proteges she has been able to place in both elected and unelected positions. What is unsaid is that many of these people are her former students from Harvard Law School. Wow, okay. The core of Ayatollah Khomeini's political power base were also his students. Intellectual work and pedagogy are powerful because they inculcate young future elites into an often deeply ideological worldview and create a robust social network between students and teachers. That's very interesting. That's very interesting. That's a very interesting frame. Very interesting frame. What does it mean? Pedagogy refers to art, science, or practice of teaching, particularly in terms of methods and strategies used to educate others. Hmm. Refers to the art, science, or practice of teaching. The practice of teaching, in terms of methods and strategies used to educate others. Greek words paidos, child, and agogos, leader, originally meaning to lead the child. In a sense, it's about how knowledge and skills are imparted, whether in formal settings like schools or informally through mentorship. Very interesting. The core of Ayatollah Khomeini's political power base were also his students. Intellectual work and pedagogy are powerful because they inculcate young future elites into an often deeply ideological worldview and create a robust social network between students and teachers. Politics is frequently a phenomenon of a highly organized and motivated minority imposing its will on a disorganized majority. Intellectual work is a mirror of populism in a way, deeply recruiting a select few rather than superficially recruiting a great many. Wow. Okay. Okay. This is very interesting. Politics is frequently a phenomenon of a highly organized and motivated minority imposing its will on a disorganized majority. If there are too many people who are disorganized, these few highly aligned individuals who have a certain philosophy that is very deep, they align on a lot of things. They align pretty much 80% on their worldview, and they also have spent a lot of time with each other. So they have a lot of trust. So, deep philosophy, high alignment, a lot of trust. These few people can impose their will on a disorganized majority where everybody doesn't, they don't even, they either don't have a philosophy or they have very different philosophies, so they all don't align. So this high alignment can definitely impose their will very well. Wow. Wow. Intellectual work is a mirror of populism in a way, deeply recruiting a select few rather than superficially recruiting a great many. It's very interesting. It's not about right or wrong. It's just a strategy. It's just a strategy that is being used, and you could do that. This could be taken advantage by the right people or the wrong people. And again, right and wrong is subjective. You can read and share these 7 insights in the other 20 from the previous 2 years in a long form article format here. Read the 2023 mega thread here, 2022 mega thread here. Wow. This is very interesting. Very interesting. Let's dive into something. So how long have you been over here? Oh wow. We already spent 1 hour. This one was really cool. This one was really cool. Wow. Bismarck analysis, great job. We already dug deep into Palantir, so let's go. Windmill is also very interesting, like just this one factor, which is diseconomies of scale. It just reminds me that okay, one person might have figured out how to make windmill, and now they are just promoting the benefits of windmill, and because it's a very easy way, like solar panels, that's a hard technology. It's really hard to bring that to life. Nuclear, there's a lot of fear around it, a lot of fear around nuclear waste disposal. But windmill looks very easy, very basic. Hey, you just plant a windmill, it rotates, and it produces energy. So it's a very fast way to show people, to prove people that hey, we are now using renewable energy. And then you stop thinking about other things around it, which is like, hey, every other windmill that you plant is not helping us grow our renewable energy production exponentially. It's always an incremental change. You're wasting so much land, you're putting into waters, the vibrations caused by windmills. I don't know if this is right or this has been proven right or not, but vibrations caused by these windmills damage or hurt the sea animals, the ocean animals, specifically whales, because whales communicate with vibrations or communicate with waves, and now these waves are interfering with their communication waves. So it's very interesting. This was also very interesting. This entire framing of Venezuela and Saudi Aramco. Basically, this is all about competence. It's all about competence. Highly aligned individual, high competence, can do things. Big businesses and bureaucracies outsource their work to McKinsey. I thought this one was interesting. Let's see. This post is for paid subscribers. The US consulting firm provides an wide range of services to nearly arbitrarily wide range of services to nearly every large corporation government in the world. Its ubiquity is a consequence and sign of institutional decay. Someone, I forgot who was it, but they said this thing that, hey, if we want to make a decision, we are a big company now. We are a big company. We have too many shareholders, and if we make a decision and that leads to a drop in the stock market, that is too much risk, people might potentially just lose their job. So what do they do is usually they hire McKinsey consultants who are just like 25-year-old guys. And now what is happening is that basically they are going forward with what they want, but when something goes wrong, they can complain on McKinsey. So that's what's happening. But it would be really cool to check this out. McKinsey and Company is the world's largest and most important management consulting firm with 45,000 employees and 16 billion in annual revenue, headquartered in New York City's financial district. The US firm consults for many, if not most, of the world's largest and most important companies in practically every field of business, from banking to aircraft manufacturing to healthcare. To a lesser extent, McKinsey also provides similar consulting services to governments at various times, including arms of the US, Chinese, and various national European governments. Generally, McKinsey keeps its clients in the project and undertakes for them confidential. At the same time, the company is so prolific that most large multinational corporations and government agencies have likely been McKinsey clients at one point or another. In government, known examples include everyone from the US Department of Defense to the Environmental Protection Agency. In business, everyone from Saudi Aramco to IBM. This was a great thread. This was a great thread. And this came out, oh wow, this came out months ago, and this person just recently read it. It is nice to have laid out so nicely a suspicion I've had with the faults of the contemporary economy. Thanks, BA. The Amazon was, and it's it's cool how they know that. Yeah, links are, what's the right word? Links are deboosted in the algorithm, so they have to do this fancy thing. The Amazon was created by human gardeners, not nature. Our new responsibility to steward the Earth's biosphere is best met with technologically enhanced gardening. We need to design new plants and upgrade existing ones. Whoa. We need to design new plants and upgrade existing one. Patrick argues human cultures universally produce myths of lost harmony with nature, from Eden to classical pastoral Arcadia to the fixation on the pre industrial English countryside. But this mythical harmony is just an illusion. Ancient Arcadia was itself the result of human pastoralism on the edge between wilderness and civilization. It was not a product of nature, but of mankind. The ancient world did not quite realize their ability to shape the natural world and climate, but we should. And they're basically talking about the ancient world didn't have high agency, but we do. Even the Amazon rainforest, the prime example of supposedly pristine natural beauty and health, was deeply shaped by unknown eons of lost human cultivators. 20th century anthropologists and archaeologists dismissed this idea out of hand due to their own biases. The view became untenable with the demonstration in the last decades that legends of lost garden cities of Amazonia were in large part historically accurate. This was a result of many avenues of evidence, most compelling in the last few years with the large scale use of LiDAR to uncover remnant structures beneath the forest canopy. A 22 study in southwestern Amazonia found that large settlement sites are surrounded by ranked concentric polygonal banks and represent central nodes that are connected to lower ranked sites by straight raised causeways that stretch over several kilometers. Massive water management infrastructure composed of canals and reservoirs complete the settlement system in an anthropogenically modified landscape. Wow, that's a really fancy way to say that. If, like, based on research, it seems like this is designed. This is not naturally random. This is designed by humans with water management systems. There is no intrinsically correct form of the concepts a society uses to structure its relationship between matters seen as internal to its processes and those seen as forming the external frame of the world within which it is contextualized. Concepts such as Daphne's dead in Arcadia or the formation and separation of ideas of the human and natural worlds come about to explain observed patterns, events, and causes. Fertile soil that is curiously found in Amazon is unlikely to have been cultivated indigenously because habitation sites are also burial grounds. Hmm. The dark, fertile soil that is curiously found in the Amazon is unlikely to have been cultivated indigenously because habitation sites are also burial grounds. Within an intellectual tradition that was incapable of understanding the evidence before its eyes of large scale human engagement with the biosphere outside of the familiar frames of field agriculture, pastoralism, and urbanism. This kind of Arcadian thinking limits our imagination when it comes to responding to climate change. We have an unwarranted focus on preserving some pure natural state or limiting the scope of our interventions. But the obvious solution then escapes us. If the problem of our day is carbon control, we have to turn to nature's gatekeepers of carbon, plants and trees. We have to take up our ancient and continuing role as gardeners of the earth, and we have to communicate with them using nature's language, genetics. It is no accident that most genetically modified organisms with legal approval for unrestricted use are bulk foods. Only agricultural chemical conglomerates have historically had the financial and legal resources to shepherd an innovation through the arduous approval process, which can easily take over a decade, while organizations such as the Salk Institute provide demonstrations but do not assume the responsibility for deployment. Meanwhile, genetic modification of bacteria and fungi to produce drugs and foods proceeds apace and arouses little protest, and the idea of leakage of these organisms into the environment being an existential risk hardly exists itself. Hmm. This is really cool. This is like a net new information. Wow. Okay. Let's see. Is Amazon forest natural or man-made? Natural ecosystem or man-made has existed for millions of years, shaped by natural processes like climate, soil formation, and the evolution of its diverse plant and animal species. Indigenous people have lived and influenced parts of the forest for thousands of years through activities like small-scale agriculture and controlled burns, but the vast majority of its expanse and biodiversity developed without human intervention. It is a product of nature, not a creation of human hands. Did human gardeners cultivate the Amazon forest? No, human gardeners did not cultivate the Amazon rainforest. It's a natural wilderness formed over millions of years through ecological and geological processes, rain, rivers, soil, and the interplay of countless species. While indigenous people have lived there for millennia and managed small areas with practices like planting fruit trees or using fire to clear patches for crops, they didn't cultivate the forest as a whole. Massive scale in biodiversity, hundreds of billions of trees, thousands of species exist because of nature's own design, not human gardening. Wow. Okay, so Grok is clearly saying that this is by nature. The world in the balance. Amazon animals will suffer as the rainforest turns into savanna. Whoa, what is that? A dead baby whale was found in the Amazon forest. Whoa, whoa. Okay, okay. We have, rather than polluting the atmosphere with substances that block sunlight or dismantling industrial civilization that is simply breed and design plants with greater capacity for locking up carbon, the necessary interventions are no more intrusive than nature's own. Patrick, not just a theorist but a practitioner of the art of designing new plants, lays out the changes that would be necessary in regulation mindset to begin gardening the biosphere on an industrial scale. Very interesting. Quarterly launch parties where we gather friends, collaborators, and supporters. Wow, interesting. This is really cool. Like just a party of people who write and think. But wait, is palladium different than Bismarck? Oh, we were. I didn't realize we went into a different website. Okay, my bad. I thought the logo was so similar, I thought it was Bismarck. Japan's Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry, METI, was created as MITI in 49 to rebuild the Japanese economy from nothing. It was staffed by many high-level wartime political players and given a great authority and power by the US occupation authorities. Okay,